Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. President Lee Jae Myung is now set to travel to Tokyo for talks with his Japanese counterpart at the end of next week, right before his summit with U.S. President Donald Trump on August 25th. The North Korean leader's powerful sister says the regime has never taken down propaganda loudspeakers and insists it will not do so, pledging to keep a hard line against both South Korea and the United States. 3 people were found dead in South Korea's capital region after torrential rain pounded down on Wednesday and overnight. The country is expected to see more rain throughout Thursday. We begin with a summit between Seoul and Tokyo. President Lee Jae Myung is set to make his first visit to Japan next weekend since taking office for talks with his Japanese counterpart, Shigeru Ishiba. Our Park Gun-woo starts us off.
A Korea-Japan summit will take place next week. The presidential office officially announced on Wednesday that President Lee plans to head to Japan for 2 days from August 23rd to meet his Japanese counterpart, Prime Minister Ishiba. This means his visit will take place right ahead of Lee's scheduled meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on August 25th.
We hope Lee's visit strengthens the personal relationship and trust between the two leaders. They are expected to explore ways for future-oriented cooperation between the two countries, along with their trilateral cooperation with the U.S.
The upcoming EU-Ishiba summit comes after the two leaders agreed to immediately resume regular high-level meetings during the G7 summit held in Canada's Kananaskis in June. The presidential office added regional issues regarding peace and stability, along with other global issues may be discussed. While the exact agenda has yet to be decided on, the office added issues regarding import regulations for fisheries imports could be on the table, with the government raising potential health issues that could affect Koreans. With less than 2 weeks left until the meeting, eyes are on whether this signals a resumption of regular summits between the two countries. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
So as we just heard, President Lee is expected to sit down for a talk with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba before heading to Washington to meet with Donald Trump. For more on the bilateral relations between Seoul and Tokyo, we're joined by Professor Daniel Connolly, Associate Professor of International Relations at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Connolly, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
So it's unusual for a South Korean president to meet the Japanese leader before meeting the U.S. president, right? How would this reflect the Lee administration's approach toward Japan?
I think Lee's decision to meet Ishiba before Trump is quite important, especially because there were many questions surrounding President Lee's foreign policy agenda during his election campaign. Therefore, I think meeting Ishiba first has the potential to reassure policymakers in Washington that Lee is willing to continue the trilateral cooperation established by his predecessor.
I see. And what issues do you expect to be on the agenda when President Lee meets Prime Minister Ishiba in Tokyo?
They're definitely going to build on a lot of the themes raised in their first meeting in the G7. This idea of a mature and future-oriented partnership will really focus a lot on economic and cultural exchanges. I am a little dubious, though, that there's going to be meaningful security or North Korea-related agreements because South Korea and Japan have very divergent interests in this area. So I expect some vague statements, but maybe not any transformative policy initiatives.
And another important issue is historical issues like wartime forced labor and comfort women or wartime sexual slavery, as they remain as thorns in bilateral relations. President Lee previously said he's going to take a two-track policy, separating historical disputes from bilateral cooperation. What's your take on this, and how does this approach sort of differ from the previous administration's policy?
Yeah, definitely. I think Lee's two-track foreign policy towards Japan can be very similar to Yoon's strategy, but I think there's a very important difference. Yoon was willing to forget historical issues dealing with Japan, but he was very ideological in his dealing with China and the United States and North Korea. I believe President Lee is more pragmatic with everyone. So he is more willing to forget historical issues with Japan, but also perhaps with North Korea and China. So maybe this two-track policy of President Lee is part of a broader pragmatic approach to all of the neighbors, not just Japan.
Right, and tomorrow marks the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule. In your view, what's the key to improving relations between Seoul and Tokyo?
I think right now the biggest challenge is the global leadership vacuum. I think everyone can acknowledge that maybe the biggest economic threat to Japan and Korea is U.S. leadership under President Trump. And I think South Korea and Japan are both export economies. They have a strong congruence of interests when it comes to protecting the international trading order. So I think if they are really focused on a future-oriented partnership, more cooperation between South Korea and Japan in preserving the international trading order might be the best way to productively move their relationship forward.
I see. And before I let you go, will the trilateral cooperation with the United States also be on the agenda when President Lee and Ishiba meet next week?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, this is very important for President Lee to demonstrate to the United States that he's willing to build on this trilateral cooperation established by Yoon. But hopefully, in many ways, he's going to do it in his own unique way, not merely following in the footsteps of his predecessor.
I see. All right, Professor Connolly, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Over in the United States, Washington's top diplomat has said it looks forward to collaborating with the Lee administration to advance an ironclad alliance between South Korea and the United States. In a statement on Wednesday local time, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio congratulated South Korea on the 80th anniversary of its liberation from Japan's colonial rule this Friday. Calling South Korea an indispensable ally, Rubio said Washington will continue to expand prosperity and confront the most pressing global security challenges by working together with Seoul. Shifting gears, North Korea's Kim Yo-jong, the sister of the North's leader, has slammed Seoul's latest peace gestures. She denies claims that the North has removed its loudspeakers, and she vows to keep a hard line against both South Korea and the United States. Our Pyongyang has the details.
Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, has rejected Seoul's conciliatory measures and reaffirmed Pyongyang's intent to maintain its hostile stance. In a statement released through the North state-run Korean Central News Agency on Thursday, Kim dismissed recent measures by the Lee Jae Myung administration, which took office in June, pledging to mend strained ties with North Korea. Lee's government has halted anti-Pyongyang loudspeaker broadcasts, moved to ban leaflet balloon launches, and repatriated North Koreans who had drifted south in wooden boats. Responding to Lee's remarks on Tuesday that the North has also removed some loudspeakers, Kim called it groundless speculation and a manipulation of public opinion, insisting North Korea has not dismantled the loudspeakers deployed along the border and doesn't intend to dismantle them. Kim also criticized adjustments to the upcoming U.S. Korean Ulji Freedom Shield joint military drills starting on August 18th, dismissing them as worthless and futile. She added that Pyongyang has no intention of improving relations with the loyal servant and faithful ally of the United States. She also accused Seoul of trying to score political points by reversing measures from the previous Yoon Suk-yeol government, calling efforts an empty dream that would not draw Pyongyang's attention. Kim Yo-jong further brushed off speculation that the summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, scheduled for Friday, could revive U.S.-North Korea dialogue, saying there was no reason for North Korea to sit down with the U.S. She warned that if Washington clings to what she called outdated thinking, any meeting would remain merely a U.S. hope, and that North Korea had no interest in talks that dwell on an irreversible past. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
A deal has been signed to export South Korea's domestically produced K9 self-propelled howitzers to Vietnam. According to defense industry sources, on Thursday, a government-to-government contract was signed late last month to supply 20 of the artillery weapons produced by Hanwha Aerospace to Vietnam for $250 million. This marks the first time for South Korean-made howitzers to enter the Southeast Asian market. The deal with Vietnam also marks the first time South Korea has exported its weapons to a communist country. On the local front, a 5-year policy roadmap has been unveiled for the new Lee Jae Myung administration. Focus is on forging an AI ecosystem to seek new growth engines, as well as upgrading South Korea's defense system. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min has this report.
Exactly 70 days after the new administration set sail, following the snap election, a comprehensive policy roadmap has been unveiled for the next 5 years.
국민이 주인인 나라, 함께 행복한 진짜 대한민국을 만들어 가겠습니다. 국민이 하나 되는 정치로 갈등과 대립을 넘어 통합의 길로 나아가겠습니다.
In line with this goal, 3 principles were set: unity, fairness, and pragmatism. President Lee Jae Myung was speaking at an event in Seoul on Wednesday, where a set of blueprints was made public by the State Affairs Planning Committee, which now concludes its 2-month-long job as a de facto transition team. Included were 123 tasks in 5 areas, including politics, the economy, and foreign affairs.
The Republic of Korea is mired in low growth. We need a new framework in line with the changing environment.
Focus was on creating an AI ecosystem centered around AI chips as a future growth engine. On top of that, the new government aims to usher in the KOSP 5000 era through forging an environment that is more investment-friendly. When it comes to foreign affairs and security,
we will upgrade the 3-axis defense system to secure deterrence of our own against North Korea's nuclear and missile threats.
the 3-axis system refers to a 3-pronged system consisting of the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation, the Kill Train Preemptive Strike Platform, and the Korea Air and Missile Defense System. Seoul also plans to retake wartime operational control from Washington during E's term. On top of that, the defense system will be bolstered to match the changing security environment, while seeking to improve inter-Korean relations. Other goals include elevating South Korea as a global cultural powerhouse, with the aim of nurturing the K-culture market worth 300 trillion won, roughly $216 billion. Also announced were constitutional reform to better embody the principle of people's sovereignty, as well as prosecutorial reform to reduce the power that's often been too heavy on prosecutors. To carry out those policy tasks, a total of 210 trillion won is needed along the way, according to the committee, which will be secured through taxes and belt tightening. What was unveiled on Wednesday will be under review by the cabinet before confirmed. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
3 people lost their lives in the capital region as heavy rain continued to pound the central regions of South Korea, where more rain is expected throughout the day. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
3 people died in South Korea's capital area on Wednesday amid heavy rain in the region. Over in Gimpo, west of Seoul, an elderly man was found dead in the back seat of a car after it plunged into a river. And in Incheon, a man in his 40s was killed when his car skidded off the road and into a lake, while a woman in her 70s died as the car she was in crashed into a traffic light on a slippery road. The torrential rain triggered heavy rain alerts in Seoul, Incheon, Gyeonggi-do, Gangwon-do, and Chungcheongnam-do provinces, as the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters raised its emergency response to Level 2. Evacuation orders were also issued for areas near rivers at risk of flooding in Seoul and parts of Gyeonggi-do province. The heavy rains also led to train service on the Gyeonggi-Jungang line between Ilsan and Susek stations to be temporarily suspended on Wednesday, with delays on other sections. For safety, trains on the Gyeonggi line between Ujeongbu and Taeguk stations were also halted for the entire day. The Korea Meteorological Administration says 30 to 50 millimeters of rain per hour could continue through Thursday morning in the central region. Total rainfall through Thursday is expected to reach 50 to 150 millimeters in the capital area and up to 200 millimeters in Incheon and northern Gyeonggi-do regions. Gangwon could see as much as 150 millimeters and parts of Chungcheong up to 100 millimeters. Lee Jae, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. U.S. President Donald Trump held an online summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and key European leaders ahead of his upcoming face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Hosted from Berlin on Wednesday, the online meeting brought together President Zelenskyy, European leaders including German Chancellor Merz, French President Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte, alongside President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. The attendees shared thoughts that any peace must include Ukraine's voice, reject territorial concessions, and proceed with firm security guarantees. Zelenskyy warned that Putin's pledge to pause aggression was a bluff aimed at stronger leverage on the battlefield. President Trump later described the call as a very good conversation and warned that Russia would face very severe consequences if Putin didn't agree to end the war after their summit on Friday. Israel is reportedly discussing the resettlement of Palestinians and is making diplomatic progress with Indonesia. According to Israel's N12 television, citing sources on Wednesday, Israel has approached Indonesia, Somaliland, Uganda, South Sudan, and Libya to gauge willingness to accept displaced Palestinians from Gaza under plans described by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as voluntary migration. Though no firm agreements have been signed, some progress has reportedly been made with Indonesia and Somaliland. Indonesia previously made a humanitarian offer, including treating up to 2,000 wounded Palestinians earlier this month and temporarily accepting around 1,000 war refugees in April. South Sudan, however, has denied involvement. Its foreign ministry labeled earlier reports of resettlement talks with Israel as baseless and not reflective of its official policy. In the U.S. state of Alaska, an outburst of water from a glacial lake led to urgent evacuations on Wednesday. Authorities have warned residents in the state capital, Juneau, that water from a basin has burst through and flooded the Mendenhall River to record levels, peaking at over 5 meters, exceeding last year's high water mark. The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning and urged residents in the high-risk inundation zone to evacuate immediately. Glacial lake outbursts occur when a lake formed by the melting of snow, ice, and rain drains rapidly, much like pulling a plug from a full bathtub. Flooding has been a recurring concern in the area since 2011, and in just 1 year last year, hundreds of homes were damaged. American singer and actress Beyoncé Knowles Carter has won her first Emmy Award. Beyoncé won the award for Outstanding Costumes for Variety, Nonfiction, or Reality Programming for her Netflix special, Beyoncé Bowl, a Christmas Day NFL halftime show, featuring songs from her Cowboy Carter album. She shared the honor with 5 collaborators, including lead designer Shiona Turini. Beyoncé had previously received 10 Emmy nominations without a win.
A powerful rain system continues to drench the central area this morning, with intense rainfall lashing down 10 to 30 millimeters per hour. But the capital area could see extreme downpours of up to 70 millimeters per hour until this morning, with up to 150 millimeters in the forecast. Gangwon-do province might get up to 120 millimeters. Now, this band of rain will gradually let up this afternoon before returning again tomorrow. For now, heavy rain alerts remain in place for the capital area, Gangwon-do, and parts of Chungcheong-namdo provinces. Meanwhile, southern parts of Korea are under sunny skies, with heat wave advisory being issued for most parts. So let's take a closer look at today's highs. Daegu and Gwangju will be getting up to 34 degrees Celsius with a chance of passing rain, but further south will be under sunny skies today, including Busan and Jeju at a high of 32 degrees. Now, more rain is in the forecast for the central regions tomorrow. Then heat and tropical nights are forecast to come back this weekend. Please stay safe and take care.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.